I'm here with Dave Linville, the Vice President and General Manager of AquaSmart Inc. When I see what you're doing at AquaSmart Inc., I'm just very excited to have the opportunity to spend this time with you and have this conversation with you, Dave.
I'm excited as well.
Good.
Great to be here.
Good. So please give us a little background on yourself and how you got into water, and then talk about AquaSmart and give a little background history there.
Okay. Yeah, so I grew up in Cincinnati, from the Midwest, and when I graduated high school, went to Ohio State University and got my chemical engineering degree there. My first job was actually in the aerospace business, working for Honeywell up in South Bend, Indiana, doing all kinds of R&D stuff. And then moved down to Atlanta, Georgia, where I currently live, in 2005. And the reason was getting into the chemical and water business. And so I worked for GE after they bought a company called Betts Dearborn, which anybody in the industrial world is probably familiar with. And so did my MBA at Emory a few years after that here in Atlanta, and then had a number of different sort of strategy, leadership, operational P&L roles for a few different companies over the years. And then about a year ago, just about a year ago, actually, started with AquaSmart. And it's pretty interesting. So we're owned by the Colonial Group, which is a 100-year-old family business out of Savannah, Georgia. And I believe they're the last remaining independent oil company in the United States, which is kind of an interesting thing. And so they own, a number of different operational entities. End Market is one of them, which is a convenience store chain in the Southeast. 100 plus stores there. A number of different other businesses. The one that we're closest to is called Colonial Chemical Solutions, which is a large scale, commodity style chemical distribution company. They actually have a branch in Atlanta where we moved our AquaSmart operation to, so we co-locate with them, which gives us some pretty significant manufacturing and logistical capabilities, which was one of the reasons to buy AquaSmart. And what I took from my interview process a year ago, which was really interesting, was Christian Demery is the fourth generation family owner of the business. And I asked, look, this seems like not in your core competency. Why'd you guys buy AquaSmart, right? And the answer was, well, look, the last 100 years has been about oil, and the next 100 years, probably needs to be about something not oil. And obviously I'm paraphrasing, but I was really sort of inspired by that, because it wasn't about quarterly earnings or we got some deal on a business. It was well, look, we have a very long-term view. And so, I'm sort of a unique position where we've got a business that, does very well. It's a very successful business. It's relatively small. We believe that it can be much bigger, which is why I got hired to make that happen. But we've got backing by, ownership that has a very, very long-term view, thinks very strategically, and has a pretty serious amount of resources to put behind our strategy. And I just think that's a great place to be.
So as Vice President and General Manager, are you the most senior executive in AquaSmart?
Yeah. Basically, I run AquaSmart. And so, I report up to the Colonial Group, which is sort of the, parent company that is responsible for all of the various, shared services or whatever across the division. So it really is structured kind of like a conglomerate is, where you've got, finance and those folks centralized, and then you've got, division leadership, and then, all the things beneath them to run the business.
What motivates you in your current role? What's your motivating factor?
Yeah, so our mission is very clear. Everyone deserves clean water. And that's kind of what drives us at AquaSmart. And, our entire strategy around the world, we are a global company, as small as we are today. We have a global footprint. We do a lot of work all over the world. And, that's sort of our belief is everybody deserves clean water. It's as simple as that. And so wherever our strategy goes, whatever we end up doing over the next 10, 20, 30 years, it's all going to be related in that, sort of common shared value. In terms of personally, what motivates me, I get the most enjoyment out of building businesses. And so I really like complicated things. I like really interesting challenges and problems, and figuring out how to scale businesses that are solving some of those, complex challenges.
Sounds truly very exciting. Give us one or two examples of the kind of impact that you've had with AquaSmart with your customers.
Yeah, so I think to be fair, I think we're going to have a massive impact in the next 5 years, and I'm sure we'll talk about why I believe that. But as you pointed out, we have been in business for a little while, and we do have customers around the world. So the two most favorite stories I have are, they all come from our customers, right? And so when I came into this business, being that I'm an engineer, I'm very logical and relatively skeptical by nature. Like, you prove it, right? Maybe it's the Midwest in me coming out also, but it's like, yeah, that's nice what you say, but like I got to convince myself that what we're talking about is actually what we're talking about. And so the first thing I did last summer was just go out and reach out to our customers and meet with them and sit with them and kind of hear some of the stories and see some of the data. And we worked very hard putting all of that on our website, which we relaunched in earlier this year, at the beginning of the year. So I would suggest that any of your readers or listeners head over to our website and look at the case histories, and there's a ton of them there, and there's some really interesting testimonials. But the two that are my favorite are, one is we got a letter from one of our customers a number of years ago where they said the nurses' uniforms don't get red anymore. And I just really like that for some reason. It's like they basically had iron in their water, and it was coming out of solution, being oxidized, which is very, very common in a certain belt around the U.S. And it didn't happen anymore. So the nurses were able to have clean uniforms. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And the second one was actually only recently here in Georgia. We've got one of our customers that there was a abandoned orphanage that had been converted into a shelter for women and children fleeing domestic violence, and somehow it kind of fell through the cracks from a regulatory perspective, and they had a massive copper problem. And it was a very, very small system, and one of our good customers took over that system and kind of immediately knew that something needed to be done. And put Sequest on there, which is the product that we make, made a couple other operational changes, and ended up solving what really had developed into a pretty significant lead copper issue. And I think that that's obviously the thing that's being talked about in our industry, in the United States at least, is what's going to happen with the upcoming lead copper rule, and all the changes that go into that. But I just thought that was, a very recent example where, we helped, people that are literally, women and kids fleeing domestic violence. I mean, why wouldn't you want to help them? Right. So, so that one means a lot to me.
Yes, sir. So in your year and you're building a business, what pleasant surprises have you had?
Yeah. So, I would say that, so this is my first business, selling to government entities. My entire career has been, B2B, this sort of, B2G, so to speak, business is new to me. And I've been really pleasantly surprised at the openness and the really just transparency and communication from all of our current and prospective customers. It seems like there's a real sort of sense of camaraderie, a real sense of, shared mission within the industry. And, you don't see that in B2B companies, right? Because these guys invented this thing and these guys invented this other thing, and they can't talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And so having sort of a mission that everybody is on board with, that I didn't expect. That was really cool. I really like that.
At the beginning of a partnership with Global Waterworks, what do you see as the value of Global Waterworks?
Yeah, well, so I think it starts that we both have the same core values, and we want the same things, and it's sort of a noble pursuit, a noble quest, if you will. And for me, everything starts there. Is whoever you choose to work with, whoever you choose to spend your time with, whoever you choose to hire, it all comes from having a shared set of core values. And if you don't, you're going to have problems. And if you do, pretty much whatever you do is going to be fine. It'll work itself out because you've got that common set of values. And so, I saw in you personally, as well as your organization, a common set of values. And so that's probably, number one. And then number two is, I think the way that you've got the platform organized is really cool and innovative, in that you've got these people around the world that care very deeply about something, and you've given them a way to engage and do something about that in a relatively structured, organized way that's very organic. And I really like that.
Very good. So back to AquaSmart, talk a little bit about the future. You said, you got to find the parent company takes the long look. So talk a little bit about the future, maybe 18 to 36 months. Where do you see it?
Yep. Yeah. So there's two answers to the question. There's the outside of the United States and there's the inside of the United States. And to be fair, I'm just starting to scratch the surface on the outside of the United States. And so we do a lot of work in the United Kingdom. I'm heading over there in a few weeks, actually. And, we've got some very good customers there. We really appreciate their business. I'll meet them for the first time and really start learning, the market in the UK and Western Europe. We've got a great distributor in Poland. We do a lot of work in Belgium, down in the Caribbean and Central and South America. We've got a number of long-term customers. They face pretty serious, red discoloration of water issues down there. And I know, they don't always have the necessary capital to put in, filtering systems to take that out. And that's something that we've helped a lot with. So I think in some of these more developing countries, we really are going to have a role to play at sort of that humanitarian level. So I see that as probably, going to be our future outside of the U.S. But, stay tuned over the next 12 months as I start to dig, sink my teeth in there. But inside the U.S., it's something we've been very focused on in the last year in understanding. And, we've built a sales team there. We're going to continue to invest more and more people. And I think get ready to make a pretty sizable investment in, step change of resources now that, we've got our strategy pretty well set and we understand what we've got. And I'm very optimistic because I think there's two issues going on that we're going to start talking about a lot, and I think are going to become very, very important. So it really does stem from this lead copper rule. And what's going to happen is, in the United States, we're going to spend billions, trillions, put a number on it, a significant amount of money finding and removing lead pipes out of the ground. And I have no problems with removing lead pipes out of the ground. That seems like a very noble pursuit. And but from a scientific perspective, kind of putting my engineer hat back on. If you look, at the UK as an example, I mentioned we do a lot of work in the UK. In the UK, there's lead pipes all over the place, and they've had a lower limit for the amount of lead allowable in the water for a very long time. And they figured out how to not have a lead problem and have lead pipes in the ground. And so I find that very interesting because at the root of the issue in the US, I would agree that if you take all the lead away, you're not going to have a lead issue, almost by definition. But the reason you have a lead issue is not because you have lead, it's because you have corrosion of lead. Those are two different things. And so there's a lot of places in the US that have lead pipes that don't have a lead problem because they've solved their corrosion issues correctly. And there's a lot of places that haven't. And what I'm very fearful of is that as a country, we're going to spend a massive amount of money putting new pipes in the ground, but we're not going to actually solve the corrosion issue that led to all of this lead to begin with. And we're just going to end up corroding all the brand new pipes immediately when they're put in the ground. And then, lead to all these other issues that we're then going to have to spend another $1 trillion 10 years from now. And so, again, it's that engineer in me is like, let's peel the onion all the way to the bottom to figure out what's the actual root cause here. And so, I think that we've got a relatively unique way to not have corrosion of metal. And, again, we share all of this openly on our website. We got a video of how Sequest works. Really excited to share with the industry what we've invented. And The interesting thing about it is kind of point number two. We can help solve the root issue, is number one. But point number two is the way that the rules being interpreted is I anticipate that there's going to be a step change in the amount of orthophosphate that gets added to the drinking water systems because we're trying to not have lead corrosion and basically build all of this lead phosphate scale all over these pipes. And again, that's fine, but what's going to end up happening is orthophosphate is predominantly phosphorus. And I actually looked at this yesterday. I did a training class down in Columbus, Georgia. And in preparation for that, I did a lot of research on the EPA's website. And they've got a document that talks about this in 2016 about corrosion control guidance. And they basically figured out that if you add, orthophosphate for corrosion control, you can increase the amount of phosphorus in the wastewater stream by up to 30%. And I believe that's very significant. And I believe that that's not something that's being talked about or sort of, addressed appropriately today. But I think it will be because, we started talking to a lot of wastewater plants and most of them, some of them have not heard of the lead copper rule changes because it doesn't really impact them. They perceive it doesn't impact them. Some of them have heard it, but they're like, well, we'll see where that plays out. But I mean, the last thing that a lot of people want to do is spend money, increasing the capacity of wastewater plants. And, that's what's going to end up happening is you've got these plants that are facing the opposite issue where you've got to remove phosphorus so that it doesn't go and, poison lakes and rivers and, have all these harmful algae blooms. And so, it's like you got these two things fighting each other. So it's just a classic case of, very conflicting direct priorities. And so, I know I'm being very long-winded here, but the ultimate question to us is like, why do we care? Well, it's because we figured out a way to, basically solve the corrosion problem using a fraction of the amount of phosphorus. And so that's what we're going to talk about is, let's just use less phosphorus for this.
Dave, it's been very interesting. It's been even better than I anticipated having this conversation with you. Thank you much. Thank you very, very much for your time today, and look forward to talking in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.